And my guests are eagerly listening to the weather forecast because they're going to be performing outdoors. The Endicott Performing Arts Center is presenting Shakespeare's The Tempest tonight through Sunday night at 8 p.m. Every night in the George W. Johnson Park on Oak Hill Avenue in Endicott. And my guests are the director, Tim Mollen, and the bad guy, Charles Berman. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Bill.
I got to warn you, The Tempest is my favorite Shakespeare play.
Uh-oh.
So how long have you been getting ready for this?
We started rehearsals at the end of June.
Yeah, so a little more than a month, or maybe a month and a half of rehearsal to put it together in performance form.
Right.
You know?
And quite a bit of prep before that, and research, and putting the music together that we're going to use. A lot of modern music has been added to this production, which will make it fun and a little different.
And what are the joys and terrors of performing outside?
Well, it's actually very different in terms of just the feel of the space, the feel of how your voice projects into the atmosphere, and the feel of the audience too. Outside, especially in a free come one call all performance like this, you get. And I did the Shakespeare last year too, so I had a.
What was the play last year?
It was King Lear last year, so I got a sense of the crowd. It was a large, enthusiastic crowd, and I hope it will be again. Fingers crossed. And you get a much freer sense than inside in the theater. The play really takes place in the world, the way Shakespeare's plays do, and there's a real sense that it suits it well because he wrote for plays to be performed outside for a large and varied audience. That was the popular entertainment that there was of the day. So by making it as accessible as we are with this, I think we're kind of bringing back a similar sense to that.
Tim, how are you staging it in the open?
Well, we have a beautiful facility that I should thank the Village of Endicott for, that they built, I believe, 2 years ago. It's called the Stage at Little Italy, and it's a beautiful pavilion. So there's a roof over the stage and a bar to hang lights on. Then there's a concrete area for part of the seating and benches there. And then behind that, there's even got a landscaped, almost, what would you call that kind of seating?
A rise or a hill, or so you can basically there are some benches up front, and then just off into the distance you can lay down your towels or your chairs. And last year I remember there was even somebody wandering around with a script, reading along.
Making sure we were getting
so
it right.
However you like to sit, it's very open, and you can even have a picnic if you want.
For people who are not familiar with The Tempest, can you give us a little outline of the plot?
Sure. It centers around the character of Prospero, who is a Duke of Milan, who also started dabbling in magic through reading strange, mysterious books. And in Milan, he neglected his political duties as the Duke, and his brother, who is sitting next to me here, Antonio, ousts him and exiles Prospero, sends him out on a nasty little boat with his baby daughter, never to be heard from again. They land on an island, Prospero and Miranda. He raises her there. And then chance or fate brings Antonio and his co-conspirators floating by in a boat. So Prospero senses their presence out there, creates the Tempest, which shipwrecks them on the same island. So Shakespeare sets up this situation where it's typical of his revenge plots, but it doesn't turn out that way, which is interesting. That this is Shakespeare's last play, and he builds up this plot that makes you think there's going to be the usual bloodbath at the end, and things take a different turn. So it's
if you know it's his last play, that he's taking a bow from the theater, you can kind of draw connections there and sense where he might be commenting on his career, on writing. And it's a fantasy, but it's fantasy taken very seriously at times with that same deep insight that he always has. So it's a very powerful play.
So what's going on between these two brothers? Why does Antonio do this? Have you figured that out?
The way I see him, Antonio is pure cynic. There's a line where I convince another character to be almost as villainous as I at a certain point in the play, and he says, "Well, what about your conscience?" And I say, "Well, aye, sir, where's that?" I don't believe in things like a conscience or a moral right, I suppose. And there's a lovely line later where my character, who has been the perfect cynic all along, sees these sprites, these magical creatures that Prospero's conjured up, appear and set down this banquet. Everyone's stunned, and my character takes a 180 just in one line and says, "Well, I'll believe anything now."
My favorite characters are the low comedy characters, of course. Can you tell us about them?
Yes, and that is the most enjoyable part for me still. I'm laughing every night as I watch these three really brilliant actors play Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo. So Stefano is a drunken butler, played by Tony Ico. He's doing it hilariously.
Yes.
I made a choice with Trinculo of the actor happened to be a drag performer, and it occurred to me, why not have him try playing Trinculo in drag? So Trinculo is like a jester that's on the ship, and that's added a whole new level of comedy.
And they play really well off of Caliban, also, as Chris Nickerson.
And Caliban's one of the most challenging and interesting roles in all of Shakespeare, in that he has these scenes of comedy with those two, but he's also got a lot of dark, I wouldn't say villainous, but dark, troubled material that is delved into in his scenes with Prospero.
And he's the only true resident of the island, correct?
Other than the sprites, other than the fairy world, yes. When Prospero and Miranda arrive, he's the only person there, although his mother was a witch, and we're not sure of his parentage as far as his father, so he may not be human, or he might be part human.
There's a sense that Prospero kind of shaped him into a person and taught him to speak and made him be able to understand that human level.
And once again, my guests have been director Tim Mollen and actor Charles Berman, who's playing Antonio. Tim is the director of the production of Shakespeare's The Tempest, being presented by the Endicott Performing Arts Center, starting tonight at 8, and on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, each night at 8, in the George W. Johnson Park on Oak Hill Avenue in Endicott. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's free.
Oh, free.
Thanks very much, Bill.